Listen carefully. Every person watching this has been shamed before, by friends, by family, by strangers, by people who smiled at your face and crushed your name behind your back. Shame is not an emotion, it is a weapon. And tonight, you will learn how to take that weapon from their hands and turn it into your greatest source of power. Look closely at the moment someone attempts to shame you. It is never random, it is never accidental, it is never harmless. Shame is a calculated act of psychological dominance. The person who tries to humiliate you is not reacting to your weakness. They are responding to their own sense of inferiority in your presence. Human beings do not attack what they consider beneath them. They attack what threatens their self-image. When someone tries to make you feel small, it is because your existence has made them feel smaller. This is the truth most people never learn. The mind of the shamer is not strong. It is fragile. Their ego is built on unstable ground. Your confidence, your independence, your ambition, your refusal to seek approval becomes an unbearable mirror. They cannot tolerate the reflection of what they are not, so they attempt to shatter the mirror by poisoning your identity. They do not argue with your ideas. They ridicule your character. They do not confront your achievements. They diminish your worth. That is the strategy of the insecure. Destroy the opponent's self-perception, so the opponent destroys themselves. Observe how shame is used. It is delivered publicly when possible. It is wrapped in humor. It is disguised as advice. It is masked as concern. It always carries the same message. You are not enough. You're out of place. You should feel embarrassed for existing as you are. This is not communication. This is psychological warfare. The goal is submission. The goal is to make you retreat into apology, into doubt, into silence, into censorship. Machiavelli understood this mechanism centuries ago. He knew that people rarely attack power directly. They attack reputation, confidence, and perception. They know that a man who doubts himself can be ruled without chains. Once shame enters your mind, it begins to rule your behavior. You hesitate to speak. You hesitate to act. You hesitate to take space. You become smaller in your own eyes. And once you are smaller in your own eyes, the world treats you accordingly. This is why shame is such a favored weapon of the weak. It costs nothing. It requires no courage. It creates chaos without open confrontation. The shamer avoids the risk of competition and chooses the safety of sabotage. They cannot surpass you, so they attempt to destabilize you. They cannot control their own lives, so they try to control your emotions. They cannot rise to your level, so they try to pull you down into their confusion. The most dangerous aspect of shame is that it feels personal, but it is not. It is projection. It is the shamer transferring their internal conflict onto you. Their fear of inadequacy becomes your embarrassment. Their insecurity becomes your burden. Their failure becomes your discomfort. They do not want to feel alone in their weakness, so they invite you into it. Once you see this clearly, something profound happens. You stop taking the bait. You stop internalizing the poison. You stop asking what is wrong with you and start asking what is broken inside them. You realize that their attempt to shame you is not evidence of your flaw, but proof of your impact. You have touched a nerve. You have disturbed their sense of superiority. You have exposed a crack in their illusion of control. From this moment forward, every attempt to shame you becomes information. It tells you exactly where you stand in their mind. It tells you you matter. It tells you you are a threat. It tells you you are ahead of them in some dimension they cannot reach. And once you understand this psychology, you no longer fear shame. You begin to see it as confirmation of your growth, confirmation of your influence, confirmation of your rising position in the hierarchy of human perception. The greatest mistake people make is trying to defend themselves against shame. Defense signals vulnerability, explanation signals doubt, justification signals weakness. The mind of the shamer feeds on reaction. It requires emotional response to survive. Remove the response and the weapon collapses. The moment you stop allowing shame to define your self-image, the entire structure of their attack dissolves. You are not being shamed because you are wrong. You are being shamed because you are moving differently, thinking differently, standing differently, living differently. You are disrepeating the fragile order that allows small minds to feel safe. And that is precisely why they want to break you. The moment someone tries to shame you, the true battle begins not in the room, not in the words, not in the eyes of others, but inside your own mind. This is where victories are decided. This is where most people lose. They believe the fight is external, when in reality it is entirely internal. Whoever controls your emotions controls you, and that is exactly what the shamer is trying to accomplish. They are not attacking your reputation first, they are attacking your nervous system. They want your heartbeat to rise, your thoughts to scatter, your voice to tighten, your confidence to collapse. Because once your emotional stability fractures, your power follows. Understand this. Emotional control is not about being cold, detached, or robotic. It is about mastering your internal environment so completely that no external force can disturb it. When someone attempts to shame you, they are offering you a trap disguised as an insult. The trap is your reaction: anger, embarrassment, defensiveness, nervous laughter, forced explanations, over-justification, visible discomfort, EV. Airy emotional leak is an opening they will exploit. Every flicker of insecurity becomes confirmation that their attack landed. Most people respond to shame with one of two impulses: fight or explain. Both are fatal. Fighting gives the shamer exactly what they want: emotional chaos and public drama. Explaining reveals your need for approval and your vulnerability to judgment. The strongest move is neither. The strongest move is control. Control of breath, control of posture, control of facial expression, control of timing, control of words. The moment you slow your breathing and ground yourself, you shift the balance of power. Your stillness becomes intimidating. Your calm becomes confusing. They expect resistance. They expect collapse. They do not expect serenity. They do not expect compo. Sure, they do not expect silence. Silence is devastating to the shamer's strategy. Shame requires an audience reaction to survive. It feeds on energy. When you offer none, the attack loses oxygen. When you remain unbothered, their attempt to dominate collapses under its own weight. They begin to look desperate. They begin to look unstable. They begin to reveal the insecurity they tried to hide. Machiavelli would recognize this immediately. Power is not loud. Power is not reactive. Power is controlled. The ruler who cannot govern himself cannot govern others. The person who cannot regulate their emotions cannot dominate any social battlefield. Emotional mastery is the foundation of psychological authority. When you maintain emotional control, you force the shamer into a losing position. They escalate. They repeat. They grow more aggressive. And with every escalation, they expose themselves further. Observers begin to sense something is wrong. The one who remains composed appears superior. The one who spirals appears weak. But this discipline must be internal first. You must stop taking their words personally. Their shame is not about you. It is about their fear of losing positio. Status, relevance, or control. The insult is merely the vehicle. The destination is your reaction. Deny them the destination, and their entire journey becomes meaningless. You train this skill deliberately. You practice slowing your thoughts under pressure. You practice observing emotion without obeying it. You practice choosing your response rather than surrendering to impulse. Over time, something extraordinary happens. You stop fearing confrontation. You stop fearing judgment. You stop fearing humiliation. Because you realize nothing they say can touch you unless you allow it. And when that realization settles into your bones, you become untouchable. People sense it. They test it. They push you. They probe for cracks. But the absence of emotional leakage changes the entire dynamic. You are no longer prey. You are no longer reactive. You are no longer controlled by the opinions of unstable minds. You become the axis around which the room turns. This is the transformation that destroys shame at its root. When your inner state becomes sovereign territory, no invader can occupy it. And once you own your emotional world, the external world begins to rearrange itself around your composure, your calm, your authority, your presence. There is a phase in every person's life when they believe their survival depends on being understood. They think if they just explain themselves clearly enough, defend themselves passionately enough, or justify themselves convincingly enough, the world will finally see their truth. This belief is one of the greatest illusions of weakness. Power does not come from being understood. Power comes from being respected, and respect is not built through words. It is built through controlled behavior, consistent presence, and the discipline of silence. Strategic silence is not the absence of speech. It is the deliberate refusal to engage in battles that degrade your position. When someone shames you, your instinct is to protect your image, immediately. You want to respond, you want to clarify, you want to prove your side. But the moment you do this, you enter their frame, you accept their accusation as worthy of response. You lower yourself onto their battlefield. Silence denies them this advantage. Silence forces them to fight themselves. Reputation is not created by what you say about yourself. It is created by what people observe. Where you say nothing. Every time you refuse to defend yourself against nonsense, you elevate your status. Every time you refuse to participate in emotional chaos, you appear stronger. Every time you walk away from disrespect without explanation, you communicate something far more powerful than any argument could deliver. You are not affected. You are not desperate. You are not dependent on their approval. Machiavelli understood that perception is reality in human affairs. What people believe about you becomes your political power. Strategic silence allows others to project strength onto you. When you do not explain, people assume you do not need to. When you do not justify, people assume you are confident in your position. When you do not react, people assume you are in control. In this way, silence becomes a weapon of reputation. Those who shame rely on provoking response. They seek public reaction because reaction gives their attack legitimacy. Without response, the shame collapses into something awkward and embarrassing for the attacker. The audience begins to feel the imbalance. They sense that one person is composed and unshaken, while the other is restless and agitated. Over time, the shamer begins to look unstable. You begin to look unmovable. Reputation is not built in moments of applause. It is built in moments of restraint. When others witness you refusing to engage in petty conflict, refusing to lower yourself, refusing to explain your existence, they silently assign you higher rank. They begin to measure you differently. Your silence becomes a signal this person operates on another level. This is how leaders are formed without announcements. This is how authority emerges without declaration. People follow those who demonstrate mastery over themselves. They trust those who are not driven by impulse. They respect those who move with quiet certainty. Strategic silence also protects your future. Words can be twisted, emotions can be exploited, explanations can be used against you. Silence leaves nothing to manipulate. Silence denies your enemy material. It forces them to reveal themselves while you remain composed and unreadable. Eventually, something powerful occurs. The same people who once attempted to shame you begin to treat you differently. They choose their words more carefully. They hesitate before testing you. They sense your presence has changed. Your reputation has shifted. You are no longer the person they can provoke at will. You are no longer the person who chases understanding. You are the person who commands space without asking for it. And in the quiet accumulation of these moments, your power grows. At the highest level of human conflict, there is no need for revenge, no need for confrontation, no need for dramatic victory speeches. True dominance is quiet. It unfolds over time. It reshapes reality so completely that the person who once tried to shame you eventually finds themselves standing in the shadow of your rise, forced to confront the irreversible outcome of their own misjudgment. This is the most powerful form of victory because it cannot be argued with, undone, or denied. When someone attempts to shame you, they are making a calculation. They believe you are weak enough to bend, fragile enough to collapse, or insecure enough to retreat. Final dominance begins the moment you refuse to accept that calculation. Instead of reacting, instead of engaging, instead of explaining, you redirect all of that energy into self-expansion. You sharpen your discipline, you strengthen your skills, you elevate your standards, you refine your presence, you build a version of yourself that no insult can reach and no rumor can damage. Machiavelli understood that the most feared power is not emotional force, but structural superiority. You do not defeat your enemies by shouting louder than them. You defeat them by positioning yourself so high that their voice can no longer reach you. Success becomes your shield, stability becomes your armor, composure becomes your signature. This transformation is not sudden, it is slow and methodical. Every day you improve something about your life. Hat strengthens your independence and self-respect. Your work becomes sharper, your body becomes stronger, your mind becomes clearer, your environment becomes more controlled, your presence becomes heavier. And as this process unfolds, something subtle but irreversible happens in the social landscape around you. The very people who once felt comfortable questioning you begin to hesitate. The same. Individuals who once mocked you begin to measure their words. The room begins to change its tone when you enter. Dominance does not require you to remind anyone of your past. You never mention what was done to you. You never revisit old wounds. You never expose old battles. You simply arrive as the new version of yourself and allow the contrast to speak. This contrast is devastating. It forces your former attackers to reevaluate every assumption they made about you. Their memory of who you were collides with the reality of who you have become. The ultimate form of regret does not come from humiliation. It comes from realization. They realize they misjudged you. They realize they underestimated you. They realize their attempt to break you became the pressure that forged you. And this realization cannot be undone. It follows them quietly. It lingers in their mind every time they see you moving with confidence, respect, and calm authority. At this stage, you no longer think about them. You no longer seek validation. You no longer measure yourself against old enemies. You are too occupied building a life that operates on a higher frequency. Your attention is focused on expansion, refinement, mastery, and momentum. This is why dominance is not about defeating others. It is about outgrowing every version of yourself that once felt threatened by them. Eventually, the moment arrives when your paths cross again. There is no tension, no anger, no desire for confrontation. There is only presence. You speak less, you move slower, you carry yourself differently, and in that moment, they understand without words that they are standing before someone they can no longer affect. This is the end of the cycle of shame, not through conflict, but through evasion, not through argument, but through evolution. Not through destruction of others, but through the construction of a self so solid that nothing from the past can touch it. What you have learned is not how to fight shame, it is how to transcend it. Shame was never the real enemy. Your reaction was, when you understood the psychology behind their attacks, you removed the poison. When you mastered your emotions, you took back control of your mind. When you used silence and reputation as weapons, you shifted the balance of power. And when you chose self-expansion over retaliation, you achieved final dominance. This is the path of those who cannot be broken. From this moment forward, you do not respond to humiliation. You rise above it. You do not argue with those who try to diminish you. You outgrow them. You do not chase respect. You become undeniable. Remember this. The world only has power over you if you hand it your emotions. The moment you reclaim them, you become untouchable. And once you become untouchable, no one ever dares to shame you again.